Welcome to Brick School. This is class 7, Grid versus Flex. It's Muhammad Ali versus Fraser. This is the big one. This is the one you've been waiting for. Now, up until this point in the series, I've been going into the why. Why is one better than the other? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? In this case, to keep it as kind of the starting core series, I think the why would almost confuse matters. Sometimes it's better just to know the facts. See, the fact is, sticking your finger in a light socket's not a good bloody idea. I don't need to go into detail as to why. Don't do it. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of that way with this in the beginning. If you're new to like, hey, I don't know the difference of the two, don't bother trying to understand the difference completely. Just generally think, okay, this is what I do. So let's quickly cover that before we go to the page and I'll show you the examples. So the first we're going to talk about is flex. Flex is really good for doing things in one direction. You can go from left to right or top to bottom, and you can swap those out quite easily. And I'll show you examples of this. But it's kind of going in one direction. It's either going left or right or down. You see what I'm saying? It's also very easy to reorder things. Now, grid, on the other hand, is awesome for laying things out in a very meticulous way. And you can kind of think of it like an erector set where it's really easy to say, okay, I want 3 here, 1 here. So in general, just as a blanket statement to make it real easy for those that are in a rush, I personally use grid for the general layout of a section. And then inside of that, I use flex, which helps to organize the information. Now, let's actually take a look at all this and see what the hell all this mumbo jumbo means, all right? So I have made a beautiful example here. It is just a block with 3 blocks in it. I've written a title here as flex, and guess what? This is a flex box. Now, to change it from flex to grid, we can just go here. And you may notice that there are others. There's block and inline block, and we're just sticking with these two today. In fact, I almost only ever use these two, but there are reasons for the other ones. We'll get to it eventually. So if I change it to grid, now it's a grid. However, by default, if I take that grid away, it defaults back to flex. So this is a flex box. And as you can see, a flex box has a direction. And if I take that direction away, nothing changes because by default, Bricks makes flex go stacked up and down, all right? And if I want to change the direction, see what happened there? The 3 boxes are now in line, all right? Now, I'm just showing you the generals here, all right? Now, we're going to give these columns a gap. And let's just give it a space M. These are just coming from Brickstyler, but whatever framework you're using, but just by default works in here. So now you've got a gap on your column, all right? If I go back to the stacked, what happened to our gap? Well, it was a column gap. And that's a neat feature about Flex, is that you have the ability to easily change these. Now, you can do it in grid too, but Bricks makes it a little, I'll show you in a second. The point is, you have independence, so let's really make it goofy. We'll give this 2XL spacing so you can really visually see the difference of here to here. So if in the desktop view, we're in the column view, and maybe on our mobile, we go to stack. Now, if you notice, that automatically did it. And it will unless I go no wrap. Okay, so in other words, it's flexing and it's wrapping kind of like text. You know, again, I'm oversimplifying just to kind of get your your head going on this. So you have your two things, and if you say no wrap, and if you don't say no wrap, it'll automatically wrap. All right. So that is kind of what Flex does. I can change the direction that it's going at any time. It has another cool feature. See this third block here? If I wanted to, I could change the background, and let's go ahead and make this red. Okay, it's red. And if I change the direction on this flex box, you'll see the red goes to the bottom. And you know what? Let me just get rid of that crazy spacing. So now the red's gone to the bottom, right? Because it's the last in the division in this block. Well, what if we didn't want it to? What if we wanted it to come up first? Which, this happens all the time. Let's say this was text and you wanted your lead text to come up first visually, but you want it to come up last in the DOM because it's better for SEO and it's not really all that important, So let's say for whatever reason you wanted to change the order. This is a really good thing about Flex is you can change the order, and I can say -1 and it'll go to the first. Wow. How cool is that? It may seem somewhat trivial, but that alone can change your dynamic data in ways like you wouldn't believe. It's really got some cool features to it, which again, we'll get into later in the course. So that is Flex in a very quick thing. Let's go ahead and duplicate that block, and we'll just duplicate this header. We'll drag it down here to give it some visual. And guess what, kids? It's grid. All right, now for on this block here, obviously, we are going to, let's take out the column gap and the row gap. They would go away anyway because there isn't that in grid. And let's go ahead and change this into grid. Well, it kind of looks the same, doesn't it? And in fact, there's still a gap here. I could put in the gap medium. And as you see, the grid is looking and acting exactly like the Flex. So what the hell's the difference? Well, the difference is that the grid has a structure no matter what the content is. Let me show you what I mean by that. If I wanted to make something that is 2 blocks next to each other repeating, okay, in a grid, a 2 by 2, I should say, all I would have to do is go 1 FR, 1 FR, and there's better code than this, but for now, it doesn't matter. So all we're saying is 1 frame and 1 frame, they're equal. And in fact, if I do 3 frames, so if I say 3 frames, you get a 3-to-1 ratio, which is very, very cool. You can see why this is used for structure, right? Now, the observant amongst you, let's put this back to 1 frame. The observant amongst you are thinking, wait a sec, well, where the hell's that 4th box? Well, there isn't one. That's it. End of story, there isn't one. And I know what you're thinking, well, that sucks because, it leaves a big gaping hole. Well, it doesn't have to. So you can go in and in the grid column, you could say, I want you to go from the first frame to the last frame. In this case, I'll show you exactly what I mean, but it counts the lines here. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So I want it to go from 1 to 3. So I go 1/3 and boom. Again, you see the power here with the structure. And by the way, it doesn't matter if I had this block here and I still wanted to do an offset like 3-to-1. There you go. So now I have this block You get where I'm going, how this is the structure. And the cool thing is, if I wanted to, I'm just going to take this flex box. I could throw this entire flex box inside of that second and see how it was contained. Nothing shifted, didn't move around. You still have your structure, and inside you've got a little thing going on, okay? So let's go ahead and get rid of that. I just wanted to show you that. Now, as we've said, there is spacing. And you noticed on the spacing on the grid, I put a gap of space M. Well, that's great. It's giving us space M on the column and the grid. Now, here's what most people don't know. It will take two values. So let's recreate what we did on the other one, and we'll go space dash XL. And look what happened. You see how the first one is your spacing for your vertical, and the second value, the XL, you can here, if I click off, you can kind of probably see it a little better, but you can see that this space here is bigger because it's the second value is the horizontal spacing, and the first is the vertical. So that's very cool to know too. Again, you don't need to write all this down because each one of these things are going to have their own videos later on. I'm just trying to, in this video, get you to understand that each one of these have a purpose. Grid is great for structuring, for saying, hey, I want you to be this big. I want you to be this wide. I want you to, and inside of that, we can put this, put this flex box, let's say. We'll do this again just to kind of bring home the point, and we'll put it in, actually, let's put it in the first one. And I tell you what, let's actually grab all three of these blocks, and we will change the background. Oops. We will change the background, I don't know, different color here. Okay, so now the light red is the flex box that is inside of this grid. Inside of this block is the flex box, but here's this block here is part of the grid, right? But the great thing is, even if I change my settings, you see how it's still maintaining that structure. I can go ahead and say, here, I think we should change the direction of this grid. And again, I don't really know why you would do this. I'm just trying to show you examples. But if I wanted to, I could say, make it vertical. Now, you notice when I press that, nothing happened. Once again, this is involving the wrap issue. So you can force it by saying no wrap. Now, again, like the light socket thing, there are reasons and subtleties as to why I shouldn't do what I just did. But the point is, 95% of the time, it works just fine. And it's a little bit of a hack, but it works if you have to. So to wrap all this up, let's look at what the benefits are of each one again. Grid is great for structuring your layout, making a layout of that you want. Flex is great for being flexible in terms of having things go in one direction, changing the order of them. Really good for dynamic content also. Not to say that you can't use it in grid, but you saw when we did the 3 boxes, let's say you have 3 records in a 2x2 grid, you're going to have to make a CSS rule so that bottom one goes across. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's something that you need to be cognizant of. So hopefully this kind of gets you to at least wrap your head a little bit around flex versus grid. And hopefully you're enjoying this video series. If you're seeing this on YouTube, get your ass over to brickschool.com, get yourself registered up. It's entirely free. There's not a damn penny that I'm asking for any of it. Also, Brick Styler is now free, which I probably am going to do a video about. But the long and the short of it is both of these things are free. So, if you want to learn bricks, you have basically zero excuse. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.